Have you ever truly admired someone in your life? Have you looked at their intelligence, their authority, or their vision, and whispered to yourself, I must become exactly like them? But did you ever notice that dark, subtle threshold where admiration slowly mutates into venomous envy, and eventually into a burning desire to destroy them? Human history is a bloody battlefield of aging kings fighting to protect their crowns, and ambitious princes willing to become patricides just to seize the throne. And in this war, there is no absolute victor, and no innocent victim.
Every great genius we look at from a distance appears like a beacon of light guiding humanity. Yet the moment you step into the shadow of that genius, what you encounter is not wisdom. It is a raw, primitive, and unyielding ego. Men who mistake the boundaries of their own minds for the ultimate reality of the world can never tolerate the birth of a brighter light right next to them.
The darkest and most flawless mind of the Renaissance, Leonardo da Vinci, looked far beyond the machines he engineered and the anatomy he drew, and summarized the most dangerous breaking point of human nature with this infamous sentence: "Poor is the pupil who does not surpass his master." At first glance, this sentence sounds like a philosophy of growth and achievement. In reality, it is a curse, because the exact moment a student feels forced to surpass the master, the sacred bond between them turns into a zero-sum war of survival.
The year is 1907, a foggy, freezing winter day in Vienna. A knock echoes on the door of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology, the cartographer of the unconscious. The man stepping inside is Carl Gustav Jung, a young, ambitious, and brilliant psychiatrist from Switzerland. That day, in that very room, they spoke for 13 hours straight, without stopping, barely catching their breath. Freud believed he had finally found his crown prince, the spiritual son to inherit his empire. Jung believed he was standing in the presence of a monolithic god. The early years were nothing short of a dream. Freud publicly declared Jung as the crown prince of the psychoanalytic movement and my beloved son. Jung was the loyal disciple, growing in the shadow of his father, swallowing his every word. Together they travelled across oceans, deciphering the darkest nightmares of the human mind. Yet Da Vinci's brilliant warning was ticking quietly like a time bomb at the very heart of this brotherhood. The pupil had to surpass the master. In 1909, on a ship sailing toward America, this perfect illusion cracked for the first time. To pass the time, they were analysing each other's dreams. When it was Freud's turn to share a dream, Jung pressed for deeper personal details. Freud suddenly froze, averted his eyes, and replied in a voice as cold as ice, "I cannot give you more details, Jung, for I cannot risk losing my authority." In that exact split second, a lightning bolt struck Jung's mind. The man across from him was not a selfless sage. He was just an ordinary, insecure king, terrified of losing his throne.
Jung understood that day that Da Vinci was right. If he remained trapped beneath Freud's dogmatic theories that reduced every human impulse to mere sexuality, his own mind would never be free. To avoid remaining a poor pupil, a miserable subordinate, he had to dethrone Freud. He had to surpass him. Jung began to burn the psychological bridges between master and disciple with his own hands.
Jung wanted to liberate psychoanalysis from Freud's suffocatingly narrow room, expanding it into mythology, world religions, and the collective unconscious. In the eyes of the aging master, this was a direct act of treason. Freud watched the young genius he had nurtured try to dismantle his life's work. For Freud, the rules of the empire were simple: either submit blindly to my dogma or be exiled from the kingdom. By 1912, the correspondence between them had devolved from scientific debates into toxic daggers. Freud patronized Jung, dismissing his theories as a mere adolescent crisis, a boy rebelling against his father. Jung retaliated, writing a sentence that struck Freud directly in the chest. "You want nothing around you but submissive slaves and patience. You fancied yourself a god, but you are just a man." In 1913, the cord was severed completely. With a single stroke of his pen, Freud erased Jung from the international organization he founded and from his own life. He quarantined him like a leper. In his quest to surpass his master, Jung found himself drifting in the middle of a vast ocean, a ship without a compass, utterly alone. Freud had protected his kingdom, but he had sacrificed his most brilliant pupil, his spiritual son.
Now, let us step back and look at this war from the outside. Who truly won? What kind of devastation did Da Vinci's prophecy cause in this story? Jung fought to surpass his master and succeeded in building a new school of psychology, but he spent the next 4 to 5 years of his life suffering from severe hallucinations, near schizophrenic breaks, and the terrifying fear of losing his sanity. He became a shattered, miserable soul, locked inside the dungeon of his own mind.
And what about Freud? Did he taste victory? No. For the rest of his life, whenever Jung's name was mentioned, Freud suffered intense fits of rage and even fainted. He remained trapped within the rigid walls of his own creation, unable to trust a single soul, surrounding himself only with yes-men. The very loss of authority he feared turned him into a living statue, a proud yet hollow king.
This is the darkest facet of Da Vinci's prophecy. Poor is the pupil who does not surpass his master, yes, but the pupil who destroys his master, entering an unmerciful war of ego just to surpass him, ultimately suffocates in the ashes of that very war. The student becomes a monster to conquer the summit, while the master becomes a tyrant to protect his seat.
This story strips away the intellectual facade of human nature. Even the most sophisticated minds, the very men who mapped the human psyche, turn into primal tribal chiefs when their own egos, power, and thrones are threatened. Science, philosophy, art. No matter what mask we wear, the engine beneath is always that insatiable lust for power.
Now leave that dim Viennese study and return to your own life. It is time to look honestly at the face in the mirror. Have you ever harbored a secret desire to overthrow the people who guided you, educated you, or helped you grow? Your father, your boss, or your mentor? When you caught them making a mistake, did a quiet cry of triumph echo inside your chest?
We're all someone's pupil in this life. And to avoid becoming the miserable failure Da Vinci warned us about, we constantly strive to break through the authorities above us. But how many times have we turned into monsters while doing so? How many times have we ruthlessly broken the very hands that raised us?
Remember, defeating someone or tearing down an authority can give you a massive rush of power, but you always risk being crushed beneath the rubble of the walls you pull down.
Jung surpassed Freud, and Freud protected his throne. Yet both ended their final days behind the curtains of their illustrious careers, drowning in deep distrust and profound regret.
If the price of surpassing someone and achieving success is locking your own soul into the dungeon of pride, do those titles and conquered territories truly make you free? Or does every victory simply make you a deeper slave to your own ego?
Now I ask you, and I want an honest answer from the darkest corner of your mind. Which one are you in this life? Are you a Sigmund Freud, a slave to his own pride, ready to discard anyone just to protect his seat and authority? Or are you an ambitious Carl Jung, willing to ruthlessly break the hand that raised him just to avoid being a poor pupil? Which hidden misery sleeps inside you? Leave your honest answers down below. Let's meet in the comments with those who are not afraid to face their own pride.